Friday morning. It is a feel-good football Friday with playoff baseball this weekend. We are here. This is it. This is why you're a sports fan for these weekends and these days in October when your football team is still in it. We got a 3-1 football team. We got a 2-2 football team. We've got both baseball teams in the postseason. The Mets start on Friday. The Yankees start on Tuesday. And yes, I've been down on the Mets the last couple of days, but I will say, if you are not fired up today, then you really don't care, because this is the top of the top of the top of the sports calendar. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
You know what? I am all fired up today, G. And look at you and I. We got the Mets colors on, and we didn't even discuss this morning.
Yeah, unintentionally.
Unintentionally, totally unintentionally, because, I think in the back of our mind, we're here. We're back in the playoffs, and I'm glad to hear you open the show the way that you open a show. That means you put everything behind you now. Now it's all about what happens tonight, what happens and what happens tomorrow, and hopefully we are on to the next series. But this is it. This is the excitement. This is where it gets to be a little bit dicey, a little bit fun, and we're all going to be hanging on every pitch.
Yeah, we haven't been here as Mets fans in a long time. I think 2015, obviously, that run was unexpected. How good that team got, and you rode the wave all the way to the World Series and losing to a very, very good Kansas City team. 2016, you come back and you lose in the one-game playoff. So, it's been a significant amount of time. 6 years is a long time to go without playoff baseball, and the playoffs in every single sport are great. But baseball, you're hanging on every single pitch. After a long season, you just watch the game differently. You feel differently. And I think we're all going to be reminded of that right away in this baseball game with two great pitchers going at it at Citi Field.
I think about the last 3 years, okay? And I think about the Islanders' 2-year run. I think about the Rangers' run last year. I think about the Knicks' run. I don't really worry about the Nets. But now here we are with the Mets. And there's nothing like your team being in the playoffs. And now you sit, you're back. The way I look at it, we get extra games. That's the way I look at it.
Sure.
And, it's exciting. They have not announced the roster yet. They don't have to announce it until 10 a.m., I think Fliegelman was telling me. So we're not really
right
sure.
after the show ends, of course. That's what they do. Everything happens right after the show ends.
Let's face it. I think the team that we saw finishing the year is the team that we're going to see, at least in this first round of the playoffs. So, I'm just locked and loaded. I can't wait to see what Scherzer does tonight. This is the $43 million man. This is the bulldog. This is the guy that's going to have to go toe-to-toe with Yu Darvish. He's going to have to go toe-to-toe with a very, very good lineup, and they got to keep the ball in the park. All I can tell you is they got to keep the ball in the park, and I hope he comes out, and, he's all about getting that first pitch strike over. And I'm hoping that San Diego's swinging on the first pitch. Yeah. And I'm hoping there's a lot of short little at-bats, not a long – drawn out 9-pitch, 10-pitch at bat early in the game and all this other crap. Just want the game to move, and I want our guys to be excited, and hopefully our offense is going to show up.
Yeah, Max Scherzer, and that's a big question, and that's something we did not see in Atlanta. Did see against the Nationals, so maybe they were heating up heading into the series if you want to go glass half full. But there's three guys I really, really trust to show up every single time. And Max Scherzer did not against the Braves, but he's still one of those guys that I trust to show up every single time.
Look at that.
I do, and that's why him pitching in Game 1, I think, is phenomenal. I do trust him to show up and do his job. Jeff McNeil's another guy I trust to show up and do it every single time, and Edwin Diaz is another guy I trust to show up and do it every time. So the point being that I don't want anybody else on the mound tonight but Max Scherzer. He's going to get that opportunity, and this really is now going to write his Mets history. It's not going to be his oblique injuries and whatever start he had and him coming back in 6 perfect innings. None of that's going to matter. His Mets history starts to get written right now, much like when Tom Glavine came over from the Braves, a big-name pitcher who had a great career. Nobody remembers anything about Tom Glavine except for that terrible start in 2007. Max Scherzer's not going to be like that. He's better than Glavine was at that point in his career, but these are the starts we will remember forever, and this is going to be the first one.
Speaking about older players starting in new places, Russell Wilson was just awful last night. Awful. This is exactly why I was telling you Seattle did not want him. They did not want to give him a contract extension. They wanted nothing to do with him. And meanwhile, while he's playing the way he's playing in Denver, Geno Smith, his replacement in Seattle,
it's amazing,
is having a career year a quarter of the way into the season. That's Al's big guy, Geno. He's been watching Geno now for 4 weeks, and Geno's on a clip to complete 77% of his passes.
MVP talk, baby.
And he's not making mistakes that Russell. I mean, these 2 interceptions that Russell Wilson threw in the fourth quarter last night are about as careless and as bad as it gets.
Yeah, he's completely lost any sense of whatever quarterback he was in Seattle when that team was winning. I've been wrong about a lot of stuff this year. One thing I've been right about so far is this Broncos team was going to have a tough year. I even know they're 2-3. They've won 2 games. They are awful. They're one of the worst teams in football to watch. Last night was an impossible watch. I gave up on it at halftime at 6-3. I don't think a single third down was converted when I watched the game. I mean, 3rd and 12 felt like 3rd and 42. And I know that the Colts needed this win. I know they were without Jonathan Taylor. Then Naeem Hines went out, and Philip Lindsay is there. So they had some injuries. But, I mean, my God, it was an atrocity. I mean, it was impossible to, and we've watched a lot of terrible football around here locally for years. And that was right there. The Broncos have played an 11-10 game, and a 12-9 game.
Yeah, so
in the first 5 weeks of the season.
I've played in games like this. I will tell you that the hitting is fierce and it's intense.
Oh, yeah.
And the quarterback play was abysmal. I don't know how else to play it. What's his name? Matt Ryan threw a couple of interceptions that were just like, what? I mean, like, these guys were brought in by their respective teams because of their experience and their history.
Sure.
And neither one played like that last night. It was bad. But, if you're the Indianapolis Colts and you're my buddy Frank Reich, you're like, thank God, just get me a win, get me going. And he's got to take something out of last night's game with the emergence of his defense without his best defensive player, Shaquille Leonard, on the field. So they won the game. That's all that really matters. And every coach, especially on a short week, and by the way, especially on a short week.
Right.
So now they have 10 days off. They get to relax a little bit, probably have the weekend off. It's a mini bye is what it is. And every player looks forward to it, and especially when you win. It doesn't matter how it looks. At the end of the day, it's hard to win in the NFL. And when you win a game like they won last night that they shouldn't have won because of where the Broncos were in the game, they were up 9-6, and it's 2 minutes to go in the game. And they can kick a field goal to go up 12-6. And the way that the Colt offense is playing, you're not even thinking that they're going to be able to get the ball down there.
Sure.
And Russell Wilson throws an inexcusable interception with about 2 minutes to go in the game. Inexcusable. Now, with 14 minutes to go in the game, he threw another one that was down in the middle. And you take a look at this final interception. It was by Stephon Gilmore. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know what he's seeing there. I mean, there's no way that he's open at all. I mean, it's just an absolute pathetic read by a guy who, of course, has a Super Bowl championship under his belt. But, yeah, he's playing terribly. He's just absolutely playing terribly, and they gave him $240 million, whatever it is. I mean, that is, you want to talk about setting a franchise back. I mean, that's going to be tough. And I think their coach is awful, too. I think the coach is completely in over his head. There were times last year we talked about Rob Saleh looking like he just wasn't ready for it in the beginning, and hopefully that's turning the corner and changing. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett, my God. And this guy's an offensive coach. I mean, there's no better example of a great Hall of Fame quarterback making a guy look like he knows what he's doing more than Aaron Rodgers when Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator there. And by the way, of course, head coach LaFleur was an offensive guy too, so he probably was doing a lot of that stuff. But Nate Hackett seems like he's
but ultimately
overwhelmed.
But ultimately, it comes back to the quarterback making the decisions.
Yeah.
And that interception with about 2 minutes to go in the game was awful. It was an awful decision. But the one before that was even worse.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What couldn't have been even worse because where the second one happened and what the score was, situational football and all that other stuff. I will just say Nathaniel Hackett eschewed kicking the game-tying field goal to go for it on 4th and 1, and Russell picked the wrong guy. This one ended up as an incompletion on 4th and 1 as opposed to an interception. And he just picked the wrong guy. He was trying to hit Cortland Sutton, and on the other side, he's got KJ Hamler wide open, and he would have walked in for a touchdown. It's just that, he's just completely out of sorts. It looks bad. It feels bad. I just hope that our buddy Anthony Gallo, who is a huge Broncos fan and was so excited to get Russell Wilson, had a good time at Comic-Con yesterday.
Yeah, he's licking a lightsaber right now. You don't have to worry about it. He's having a good time. He's over there. He's talking to Klingons. There's no doubt about it that he's not. This is out of his purview at this point. So he's going back to Comic-Con today. It's a 2-day Comic-Con.
Yeah, I know. It's a big
going
thing.
back.
He needs to go there and get his mind off of what he saw last night.
How about Tom Brady yesterday saying how there's a lot of bad football being played? I mean, he just came out and said it. He goes,
it's true.
He goes, there's a lot of bad football from what I see, a lot of really poor quality football. And then you got the game that you had last night. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of bad football from what I watch. I watch a lot of bad football, poor quality of football. That's what I see. And then last night delivered exactly that.
Well, his team's got a lot of injuries. I would say that game between them and Kansas City last week, at least there were points scored, and it was exciting. And both quarterbacks put up huge numbers. And if you're a fantasy football player, I'm sure you got a lot out of that game last week. But this game last night was abysmal. I mean, it was an abomination of offensive football. But as Coach Cowher always tells me, hey, boom, defensive guys get paid too, man. That thing was a picture of joy.
No, God, not even him could enjoy that. I'm sorry.
He loves crap like that.
There's not even Coach Cowher could enjoy that.
Defensive football,
nobody did.
I'm telling you, Al could call him right now, and he'll tell you, man, that game was awesome last time because of the defense.
You know what? I would.
We've become so accustomed to big numbers and exciting football, especially coming off of last year's playoffs.
Yeah, I don't.
And there have been saying, how many games have been within a score of each other, like 3 points of each other?
But this
year?
wasn't like to me. This was not because the way Russell Wilson has played and this Broncos offense have played. This was not great defense. That was them sucking. I mean, they've already played an 11-10 game. You know what I'm saying? That's what that was.
I know.
It's just bad. It's flat. I mean, everybody was killing him. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit. I actually heard Ryan Fitzpatrick a little bit on the halftime because I wanted to see how those guys were going to talk about it. And Tony Gonzalez, who never says anything of note, he's sitting there going, what is going on? What is happening here? It was that bad. I mean, every person who has ever watched football in their life
Al Michaels has come a long way.
By this.
We had a couple of these crappy games.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, one of the last games we had was like a San Francisco at Atlanta game. And both teams were like 3-12 coming into the game. We had it for Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
And this was well before flex scheduling and kissing everybody's ass and all this other crap.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget saying, I said, I said something along the lines that they were saying last night, like this is a nothing game, but guys still got to go out and play, and it's not going to be a fun game. It's not going to be an enjoyable game because there's going to be a lot of business decisions being made. Guys not wanting to make tackles because they don't want to go into the offseason hurt.
Right.
And all I hear in my ear, don't say that, don't be so negative. I'm like, I'm just trying to be honest.
Yeah. How deep was the knife in your back at that point?
That's where it started. That's where the shiv started to come out.
Yeah, it did.
But anyway, I mean, like, I don't want to hear about it. I mean, oh, God.
Did you hear last night, did you catch when Al Michaels goes, sometimes a game is so bad that it's good. Do you know what I mean, Kirk? And he goes, no.
Yes.
Watch your back, Kirk.
I think he also said something about it being like the fifth game on CBS.
He did. Yeah, he did. He did say that as well.
His star power wasn't enough to hold people watching it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, Jesus God. But hey, look, man. At the end of the day, it's a live game. Those guys. I'm telling you, the defensive guys today are walking on air. I know, but I'm just telling you, the defensive guys are walking on air. The coaches in Indianapolis felt probably pretty lucky that they came out with a win because Russell Wilson just completely imploded in the fourth quarter.
I love rooting against
overtime,
him.
By the way,
I love rooting against him. It really is a lot of fun.
And I don't know why you don't like him so much.
I mean, because that whole thing. And I just don't. I don't feel like he's a guy's not someone I could sit down and hang out with. He's just not one of those guys. And I think his teammates hate him. And he forced himself out like quietly and douchily out of Seattle, and now he's getting his comeuppance. And I love it. And I love being right about the Broncos stinking. So that's another reason why I love this.
Yes.
Yeah. And he finished his press conference last night with Broncos country, let's ride. I'm sure they really wanted to hear that after that performance. Broncos country, let's ride. I mean, yeah, Gallo's probably watching it. Shut up, bro. Shut up.
Man, I'll tell you.
I'm riding with you.
What's it, like 5 games? It's week 5. And they've already just completely moved on from both the coach and the quarterback.
Oh, yeah. I would, too.
Holy crap.
Very proud fan base that's seen a lot of winning out there.
Yeah, I know.
I would, too. I would be done with those guys.
This is where Seattle won this one because Seattle knew that they were done with Russell. They knew that Russell's agent was in there wanting more money, wanting extension and all, and they knew that they were not going to pay him.
Yeah.
They were getting tired of it, just like you have often pointed out here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a matter of time when they moved him to some team that was quarterback needy, whether it would have been Carolina or Denver. You know, these teams that have been locked in these quarterback situations for the last 7 or 8 years. You know, like Carolina at the end of the, Cam Newton era, then the Sam Darnold, now the Baker Mayfield, and then you got Denver. You could look at all the quarterbacks that they've gone through, Drew Lock and Brock Osweiler and you name it.
Joe Flacco.
I mean, so they were just so needy and they needed something because they've been in this quarterback quandary for all these years that they overpaid to get Russell Wilson, and then they gave him a contract extension, which is even more befuddling.
Well, I think once they made the trade, they figured they had to because that's the reason he wanted out of Seattle. I mean, I don't think anybody expected him to be this bad. I didn't expect them to really compete in the AFC West with the other teams in there, but this bad?
I'm trying to think back to when all this happened. I think the trade for Russell Wilson and the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett all happened prior to the sale of the team.
No, it did happen. And remember,
and then the contract extension with Russell came with the new owner of the team, Bob Walton.
Yeah, that I don't remember. I do remember, though, that Nate Hackett was there for a long time prior to Russell Wilson getting there because we still thought that there was a chance that Aaron Rodgers was going to go to Denver because Nate Hackett was there, and that was his guy. And then they ended up losing out on Aaron, obviously staying in Green Bay. Then they turned their sights to Russell Wilson, and now they got this pile of crap.
Yeah, I wonder how Aaron Rodgers viewed last night's game.
Probably laughing his ass off.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.